What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Run Your Mouth podcast. We've got exciting guests today. We've got Jared, Luke, and Typo from the Biting the Bullet podcast. Welcome, everybody.
What's up, man?
What's going on, dude? How's it going?
It is good to have you here. The reason I reached out was I had a really good plan for when the Boogaloo went down. I was like, I'm all set. I got this friend. His name is Eric. He's the Rambo of Iraq. He's got 72 confirmed kills. If things go to shit, I'm good. But then I realized I can't trust this guy because he picked Harrington over me for survival. Now, here's why that was an epic. Now I don't even trust him. Like, at first I thought I'm safe with this guy, Eric. Here's how I know he fucked up. I was in Philly with Harrington, right? And Harrington decided he was going to wander into the evening and do DMT. Now, I don't know. Have you guys done DMT? Is that a drug you guys are into at all?
No, I haven't yet.
I watched a lot of Joe Rogan. Does that count? I don't know.
Yeah, you guys hallucinogenics people at all? Like mushrooms, ecstasy, LSD?
Yeah, we dabbled, a couple of us.
Allegedly.
All right. And no war memories or accidentally killing each other. So it worked out okay. So
We all live together, so that works.
Yeah.
So Harrington tells me he's going out to do DMT, right? And then he just texts me an address. I was like, I'll pick you up in the morning. Let me know how I get in touch with you. He just texts me an address. And I'm like, I don't know what this address is. I was like, for all I know, it's going to be a park bench. And he's just going to like have been out there all night. Like, dudes, I've been waiting for you, you know? But then here's what's great. He gave me the wrong fucking address. It's in Philly. I'm not from Philly. He gave me the wrong address. We had to track down another person for the right address. We gave him to 12, or we were just going to leave him. We knocked on the door, and it was basically a crack den, and he was just asleep on the floor. And we're like, Harrington, we're leaving. And he put on his pants, stopped fucking some dude, and came with us. But the point is, no, he wasn't really fucking a dude. The point is, if anyone would pick Harrington over me for survival, they're out. And then people were hitting me up, and they're like, the Biting the Bullet guys, they're fucking prepping for the Boogaloo. These are 3 Marines. They served together. They hunkered down. This is how much prepping they're doing. They're not even talking to women. They're getting ready for a women lifestyle and hunkering down, just 3 dudes prepping. And I was like, that's who I got to talk to. I feel like these guys might help me survive. So can you tell me a little bit about your Marine background and why I should be joining your squad?
You want to take that first?
I'll go first. So I joined in 2011. I was 0861 fire support man. So I called in artillery strikes and eventually did like targeting for aircraft and shit like that. Went to Afghanistan in 2014.
Can I ask you a quick question on that? In calling in airstrikes, do you think you have more confirmed kills than Eric?
No, I got told no on like every mission. I never got a single one passed through. Yeah, it was like 2014, so it was the drawdown in Afghanistan. So it was we were like not allowed to do a lot of stuff.
So
even though we could. What
does that conversation look like? You're on one end, like, dude, you should seriously bomb these people. And they're like, nah. And you're like, no, yeah. I'm telling you, it would be fucking awesome. You should really, really bomb these people. No, sir, like, what? Why were you trying to call in?
Accurate description of what I did in Afghanistan right there. That's you fucking nailed it, bud.
There you go. So you don't have a ton of combat or like gun experience, but you're good with maps.
No, that's the thing is I get embedded with a line infantry platoon. So I still conducted the patrols with them. I took all the contact they did, everything like that. So I don't like I don't like try to fuck. I'm not like somebody that went through. I'm definitely not the Rambo of Iraq. I'll tell you that fucking much right now. But you know, I have a flabby body and I can still run 3 miles, so I consider that a superpower of some sort.
All right, not bad. And the fact that you're not the Rambo of Iraq, if anything, is proving that you're probably more emotionally stable and you can pick better survival partners for when the Boogaloo goes down. So I'm giving you the stamp of approval. And now let's move on to you, Luke. What is your military background?
All right, I joined in 2012. I was a field radio operator, so I'm the comms guy. I never went to Iraq or Afghanistan, but I can drink a shit ton from Japan. And that's basically my Marine Corps experience. And I'm really good at training people because I sent a lot of people to Iraq.
So in other words, you got to hang out in Japan, drink sake, and bring Asian broads and yell at people. Like, were you a drill sergeant?
No. I got out as a sergeant, but I was just a radio operator. I didn't do we call them B billets, but it's like a follow-on MOS basically in the Marine Corps. So I didn't go and become a drill sergeant or anything like that, but I just trained up. Like I ended up at Jared's unit, and they were going on deployments, and that's in 29 Palms, California. They were sending out people on deployments, and I was training all the radio operators to actually go and conduct missions there.
What is the, I had a teacher in high school who was a sniper in the military, but he was in the military when that basically meant you collected a paycheck, and he said he sat on a couch and watched MTV. That was his entire military experience. I would think getting to, like, where's the best places to get sent? I would think Japan or like an outpost in Hawaii. Like, where are like the great places where you're like, oh, I'm fucking freeloading. This is a good time.
Australia is the best fucking place in the entire goddamn world to be a U.S. Marine.
Yeah.
I saw some of the dorkiest, scrawniest, fucking ugly motherfuckers come back with nothing but stories about banging fucking Australian shit.
I can speak to that because I nearly never get laid, but my % hit rate with Australian tourists is like unbelievable. And like,
yeah,
and like I go from banging like 4s to like 9s. There's something about those Australians that are either attracted to ugly dudes or just want some dick immediately, you know? Like, so
direct blues on that shit, dude, and you're ready to fucking go, man. You just give them all fake names just in case.
There you go. So Australia is the best place because you can get laid a ton, and there's not much combat going on in Australia.
No, that's the best part.
Yeah, so you just get to fucking chill.
Yeah, the only combat in Australia is fighting the dudes there.
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, I remember Kurt Metzger had the best joke where he was talking about how, I'm going to butcher his joke, but he was saying like Walmart was guaranteeing like people jobs if they were out of the military. And he's like, all right, I guess that's nice at Walmart, but if you watch those commercials, I really thought I was going to be doing something cool, you know? And of all those commercials that I saw as a kid, the one that really struck me, I love skiing. That's my jam. I fucking love skiing. And I remember they had one with like these dudes. They must have been like Germany or like the Swiss Alps or something. It was just the commercial where they were skiing and they had the guns on their back, and it was like, join the Army Mountaineering or whatever. And that to me, if you were joining the military, that just seemed awesome because I guess you got to like hike and ski. Does that even exist? I don't know if that was just the propaganda commercial that spoke to me most. You know,
fucking baby, dude. I mean, my personal favorite was the U.S. Marine that not the U.S. Marine, the knight that comes into this castle and shit, and he starts fighting a fucking dragon, and then he stabs and slays the dragon, and then right after he kills the dragon, his like broadsword turns into a fucking Marine Corps saber, and he turns into a U.S. Marine in blues and shit, and it goes like the few the proud. I was like 06.
Yeah,
I was like 06, 07.
There's dragons out there?
Yeah, dude. That's why there's a common phrase in the Marine Corps where you go, "Hey, man, go slay that fucking dragon." That's where that comes from.
It's like the aliens. They're not telling us about that shit. Yeah, Harrington, you had something on that.
Dude, that commercial played every weekend during football from like 2002 to 2008. Like, it made so many men in my high school class join the Marines.
Really?
It's crazy.
I never saw it. Can you pull it up? I'd be curious if you might be able to pull it up. I gotta say, the piece of military propaganda that spoke to me the most, and it's not direct propaganda, but when I was failing out of college, that was when I was like most depressed in my life, and I somehow found Band of Brothers. And dude, Band of Brothers, in terms of, I would say the two greatest TV shows of all time, they're just different genres, and maybe I have a different feeling because I'm not as I understand war now and just how terrible it is and how much they lie about that bullshit. But I would say Breaking Bad is the greatest TV show of all time. Band of Brothers is also, it's just a different genre. It's like watching a war movie, you know? But I remember watching that show when I was failing out of college, and I had that thought in my head, like, yeah, USA, I'm going to defend my country, I'm going to join the army. I mean, I didn't because I'm a pussy, but I'm just saying at least that thought got into my head. What to you guys, like, growing up was, like, the best piece of military propaganda that kind of spoke to you?
Generation Kill.
Generation
Kill made me want to be, even though that show like means more anti-war, especially at the fucking end. God damn it, I was like, I want it all.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Generation Kill.
What was Generation Kill?
First, it was it's about First Marine Recon and their initial invasion of Iraq. It's actually a show that I tell a lot of people. I'm like, do you want to know what it was kind of like to be an 03, like 02 fucking Marine invading Iraq? Like, there it is. It's
yeah, and
it's pretty brutal.
What was it? It was HBO or something like that. So it was like
HBO
super
series.
well done, and it was just way too it was way too true for when it came out, man. Like it was like super realistic compared to like what was actually going on during the time. So Generation Kill was a big one, and then I was that weird kid that would like watch MASH, and that was my fucking thing, dude. It was like super like depressing, and it wasn't like a whole lot of combat, but I fucking loved MASH, and I was like, dude, they're just like good people, and they're defending their country, and like.
You guys vaccinated by fucking MASH?
Yeah, dude.
Jesus Christ, dude.
How old are you guys?
I'm 26.
Okay.
I'm 26 as well.
I'm 25.
Now, you must have had a really shitty childhood if you were watching MASH and you're 26 years old.
Dude, I was fucking poor as dirt, man. That was like one of 3 TV channels I had.
I mean, that's like a different level of, that's like Trailer Park where like the trailer park itself is running its TV service that you're watching MASH.
Nah, man, it wasn't Trailer Park. It was the fucking ghetto ass apartments that I lived in that basically the only people that lived there were single mothers and crackheads.
That's my market, dude. I don't know what you're complaining about. I wouldn't have left that. That's Rob Bernstein heaven right there. All right, let me ask you this. So Generation Kill, it seemed that the missions were like kind of really heroic and fun in a violent way that when you were younger, it was appealing. Was that's
yeah.
Yeah. I remember I was once drinking in a bar and this guy turned to me and he was like, hammered to the point that you were getting like the really honest version of him. And he was there with his wife. And firstly, he won me over. He bought me a drink, gave me a slice of pizza. And he goes, that's all it takes. And he goes, I'm a vet. And I was like, cool, man. How many tours have you done? He goes, dude, he's like, tours. He's like, I don't know. Maybe we did like 2 in Afghanistan, but he's like, I did the real shit. Like I was in Fallujah, whatever. I don't know, whatever, one of those 2 things. But he was like trying to get away from his wife to be like, no, like, you don't understand. I was in on the action. And there are some fucking sickos who like, they like it, man. Like they live for the thrill of war. Even Eric, who's the Rambo of Iraq, and you got to be careful around him. He has said that there's a focus that comes with missions and being on war that can't be replicated. And while like he doesn't stand by the army, he's become libertarian. It's definitely you get back to normal life, and nothing's ever going to be what that thrill was.
Yeah, it's something that we've talked about. I think probably 2 or 3 times on our show, where we brought up that point where like it kind of answers the questions on why some, especially people in the military and active duty, are like kind of feel like you look at them, they look like they're ready to go. Is because war is fucking addicting. Like that shit lasts like 20 minutes out of the fucking day, and at least it was for me. And that like 20 minutes was like the biggest rush I've ever felt in my fucking life.
Yeah.
Even looking at it now and like going against them the way I do now, it's still like an experience is an experience, and like just the focus, the adrenaline spike, the fucking, like you feel everything, the hypersensitivity, everything, all of it. It's like a fucking drug.
Yeah. And then also, oh, no, go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say, we always joke with Jared and said his sex drive hasn't come back from war yet, even though he did.
I get that. I can see.
Feel that.
And then the other thing that I've read when it comes to war is, I guess the real way that they kind of indoctrinate you is it's not so much defense of country as much as it's kind of being with your brother in arms. And so you're responsible for your troop. And so, you always kind of feel like you're defending yourself and your troop. And that's how everyone in every single army kind of feels comfortable killing. And also, even when you're there, it's a rush because it's survival and it's all about you and the people you kind of care and love about.
Right. It's easy to justify going and killing people that don't really look a lot like you when they just killed one of your buddies like a couple weeks ago. You know what I mean? And you don't really think about it as much anymore. It just becomes like all right, this is what we're going to do. Like, I don't even care about these people, so I really don't give a shit about fucking killing them. And your entire time in the military, like, I mean, I never deployed, but I had the same feeling almost my entire Marine Corps career until the end, where I was just like, I was trying to get on deployments constantly because I was like, I want to go over there and fight. Not so much because for the country. It was more
I want some action.
For the action. And then I saw all my buddies coming back like fucked up and this, that, or the other. And I was like, I can fucking do that. And these people don't have to go, and they have families and shit. And I was just a single dude that was like, I don't have a fucking family. Like, I have my parents, but
let me at them.
I signed up for
Put me in, coach. Yeah. Put me in.
Yeah, exactly. Like tap me in. Like, I'm ready to go. So they do a really good job of like, we say it's brainwashing. Like, they brainwash you to not give a shit, and you kind of just get this numb feeling after like being in the military that you're just like, yeah, I can do all this shit because fuck it. Like, it can't be worse than what I'm doing now.
They make it feel like a reward now.
Yeah, it's a reward.
The deployment cycles are so much lower in tempo that like it's always like only the good dudes go out. Only the guys that actually know their shit are gonna fucking deploy. Like, this is how like my unit is like, you better be the best. Like, that's how you're gonna get on a fucking infantry unit, and that's how you're gonna go fucking chop out with them. And like they almost like, and then there's just the general culture too. Like they always say, you know, this is a fucking gun club, so you know it's a lot of guys, they go out there and they come back and they have that new little fucking ribbon on their fucking chest that says they got shot at. And
get that chest candy.
They fucking, you know, call everybody else a bitch. So, you know, what's better in a man's life than being able to look at a bunch of other men, especially in like 18, 19, 20. Love calling dudes a bitch.
Yeah, being able to look at another dude and being like, yeah, you're a bitch.
Like, get on my face, you fucking boot. Like, feeling at like 20 years old, 21 years old, you're like, yeah.
Right. Well,
and then they make you a fool.
I think part of that is every social group kind of has its hierarchy, and status is important to us. And you guys are living the most extreme version of it, where like in every other club has its, like, you can have your video game club and you got your guy who's best at the video games and he gets to look down at everyone else and he gets to feel superior, and you guys are living the most authentic version of it, where it's like, no, you're a fucking pussy, I got shot, like, you know, and it's like very tangibly true. Okay, so as we go down the line here, I am trying to find people that I can really survive the Boogaloo with, and Typo, what I'm hearing from your two friends is that they were mostly just on radio, so I'm not 100% impressed yet. So I'm hoping that you can rally here and tell me that you were like a sniper, that maybe you were holding a big machine gun. Can you rally the cause here? Because I might be going back and pleading my case to Eric.
Get a pipe out.
All right, well, I was in the Marine Corps 2012 to 2017. And I was an intel analyst for the Marine Corps.
And clearly the manliest voice of the bunch. So I'm being sold here, Typo. You're coming through and you're rallying for your crew over here. Now, can I just tell you, you would have the greatest nickname ever if you were like writing down coordinates for who to bomb and you got it wrong, and that's why your name was Typo.
No. The story of why his nickname is Typo is way better than that, actually.
Okay.
All right, my name's Tyler. It's typically spelled Tyler, right? Well, my name is Tylor, and it was because the doctor misspelled my name.
So his name's literally like we found that out in the Marine Corps, and one of my roommates at the time was like, "Your name's a typo," and it just stuck from then on. So yeah, he is an intel analyst, and his name is Typo. And that's like the worst. Like, it just the two things that didn't make sense together.
Yeah, I had a pretty skate in the Marine Corps, so like my life wasn't rough. I didn't do anything crazy. Like,
he's the only one that got in trouble.
I was in the office all the time.
What do you get in trouble for?
Protecting his junior Marine.
Because so I had this guy that got a DUI, and we didn't know if he was actually going to get convicted or not. So we waited till his court date before we told the Marine Corps, and I knew about it for like a month and a half. So then when I told them that I knew about it for a month and a half, they're like, "Oh, you're keeping shit away from your Marines and or higher ups." So then they made me go down a rank.
Oh, that sucks. Does that like mean less pay, or just, you know, you get curfew? Less pay. Yeah, that sucks.
It's less pay, and then you like going. It's like that whole you get to call other dudes bitches. Like, you go back to the bitch that you were before.
Right. You end up cleaning, like in all those movies, you end up cleaning the kitchen kind of thing.
Yeah. Basically. But, right. You know, the best thing about the Boogaloo is it's not so much that it's about survival, right? So if you want a team to survive, we were great at skating in the Marine Corps. Staying below the radar, doing our shit, surviving.
I didn't I didn't even get my Humvee license until like after I got back from Afghanistan. That's when those fuckers got me on that shit.
And everybody gets Humvee license in the Marine Corps. But, you got to stay below the radar, survive, but be the best at what you do. And that's what we were. So that's all that matters.
That's been my philosophy my whole life. So we're going to get along, dudes. I mean, just being mediocre so that no one expects too much of you. They don't, and you get by. I had that in my last job. I never wanted to post too many sales in a pay period because then people start, like, you get up the leaderboards and people start, like, realizing what you're doing. And they expect it from you, for one, and for two, they start looking at where you're prospecting your leads, and then you got to, like, really work hard to stay ahead of them. So I was like, I better not sell all these people because otherwise they're going to realize that I have good lead sources. By the way, dude on the right, anyone ever tell you look like Marv from Home Alone?
Only every fucking day of my life since the age of, like,
well, then there you go. I'm good at calls. So what other tips you got for us for the Boogaloo? I know you did an entire episode with it. You had some dude who I forgot, he was like in the Coast Guard, but then he turned out not to be a pussy. You would think Coast Guard total pussy, but then he turned out to have done some really cool shit. So can you give us some quick tips?
Get a fucking weapon that can cycle any ammo, any shitty ammo. So like
dude, he's like in New York. He ain't getting shit.
I know you're kind of fucked up there, but if you can get outside the city and you go up upstate, you can find some boys up there, some good old boys up there that got some can cycle rounds that are pretty shitty rounds. Because in the Boogaloo, man, you're not gonna be able to fucking like get high quality ammo. So you need some pretty janky guns that shoot a lot and can shoot a lot of really shitty ammo.
There you go. Now,
and I'm pretty sure we've endorsed the AK constantly on our fucking show.
The AK-47 as being the weapon of choice?
That it's the theme because in the Fighting Mongooses, which is the name of our unofficial, not a militia, in the Mongooses, our fucking uniform, our unofficial uniform, is an Adidas tracksuit. You want to get an Adidas tracksuit.
Ooh, I like
and then,
this.
Like go and like kind of super glue some steel plates in your garage for body armor because we're all poor. We can't afford good body armor.
Yeah, we can't afford that shit.
So, just something that can take some shrapnel, kind of like Velcro it to your body. You'll be all right. And then you can roll out with that. Crocs are optional. We endorse boots, but if you go to your ice cream social in a pair of combat Crocs, that's 100% okay. We call that girth energy. It's fucking good.
You got to flick them to combat mode though, because if you have them like flipped up, like house mode, they're not going to work as well. You got to flip them down, get that good traction, so they stay on your feet during the combat when it pops up.
That legit ankle support where you can be in both water and on dry land. I get it. With comfortable feet. I don't want to be fighting the Boogaloo with uncomfortable feet. Okay, so first I got to get the uniform, which is Crocs, the best shoes for combat, a high-end Adidas tracksuit, and then just duct tape.
No, not high-end. We're poor as fuck. You want to go for like some Eastern European off-brand Adidas tracksuit. I got a couple links I can send you. They come in camouflage. And then just like slap metal on it, whatever I can get my hands on.
Basically.
I once had a friend. I once had a friend. I couldn't tell if he was joking or not because we were out. What? You're laughing that I had a friend, or that my friend he had this idea. He started collecting like the tops of soda cans, like the top of my Red Bull. He was collecting like the little pieces on top, right? And I asked him because he was being like really OCD about making sure every time you threw away a can, you could grab one. And he goes, well, I'm collecting them and I'm building myself a chain link armor suit. So that if my parents throw me out of the house and I'm homeless, I'm ready to go. So I still to this day don't know if that was serious because it was the middle of summer. I don't think you'd survive that long in a chain link metal suit. He did a lot of drugs. He was a good friend of mine at the time. But that might not be a bad idea. That might not actually be a bad idea for cheap body armor, is connecting a bunch of the tops with that. I don't know, would that like do decently or terrible idea?
Realistically, you'll stop pistol rounds. It's if you want to get good shit, just go out and get like some level 4 ceramic plates for real. If we want to get into the serious part of it.
Right. Now, I remember when the Bundy Ranch thing was going down. What was very interesting about that was you had some what looked like really serious military personnel with some like pretty serious experience. Like it almost seemed like the reason why they didn't want to go in is that they knew the credentials of the people there. They knew the sniper who was up in the thing, and they're like, this is not going to go well. What's interesting about the concept of the Boogaloo, and you guys would know this better, it's this might be kind of like a confirmation bias that because I'm in the libertarian camp, I keep kind of interacting with military people that are no longer like necessarily pro-government. But it does kind of seem to me that probably the biggest risk to the government is all of the military personnel that they trained that can kind of see through the bullshit and wouldn't if we were teaming up, would be more on team civilian and fuck the government. I wonder, because you guys have interacted with more military personnel, you would know, but would you say there's a high percentage of people who have kind of done active duty service and now see through kind of what the apparatus is and are also well trained? Like, I would love to take your approach to that. I know nothing about this other than the question I'm posing.
I would say after a couple years of being out of the military, a lot of my veteran friends, they're not too keen on the military, and at least they understand that the military is fucked up, but they might not see through like party lines. Like a lot of people that join the military like tend to be more conservative, just kind of how it is. But I mean, honestly, a couple years after you get out, a lot of people start thinking like, man, maybe this is wrong, and like maybe why we're there is wrong, and it's actually kind of weird. It doesn't take very long for a lot of veterans to start figuring it out after being out of the military.
Yeah, and then just being on we've started to try and get a lot bigger on Twitter. It seems like it does well for our podcast, so we've like really attacked Twitter a whole bunch. And we found so many fucking vets that are, first and foremost, they're anti-war, but then second off, they're like along my sphere, because I'm like the anarchist of the group. Typo's pretty anarchist himself, but like a lot of anarchist vets out there that are just like, yo, fuck the government. Like, we're done with this bullshit. And I think it says something, you see it firsthand day in and day out. And Jared says it all the time. He's like, living in the military is like living in the DMV 7 days a week. And it's like fucking shit. It's garbage. It takes forever. The people are shitty to you. You want to be shitty back, but you really can't, because you get sent back to the end of the line. And you're just like, fuck me. This is fucking hell. You got to play the game. And so a lot of the guys, like Typo said, a couple years removed, it's like, man, fuck this. This is bullshit. And then I think we've done a lot for the veteran community that are like anarchists or libertarian in that sense, where they're like, oh shit, we're not the only fucking ones out here thinking like this. So maybe I need to check out this or check out that. And we have a whole bunch of veteran podcasts that have popped up in the last year that are in like the libertarian sphere that are like really dope. And we're hitting a big demographic. So it's kind of been needed. And I think that's why there hasn't been such an outpouring of vets in the libertarian community, because there wasn't really people that talk like us or fucking act like we do. And, are as crude and dark as we are, but they really wanted that. And they finally saw it. And they're like, oh shit, maybe I can really start getting into this libertarian thing or anarchist thing.
Yeah. Like, because we flow our entire podcast, the way we talked about it before we started was, there's this place near the barracks, and every like Marine Corps barracks, it's called the smoke pit. And it's like your designated smoking area around the barracks, has like benches, grills. So it's like it's where you usually wind up getting shit faced on the weekends and everything. So we said, it's like, we wanted our podcast to feel, for the veteran community that feels a little bit like this. We wanted them to feel like they just walked out on like a fucking Sunday night at like 2 a.m. and fucking there's like 6 dudes still like drinking, pulling from like a bottle of fucking whiskey, just talking about fucking random shit. You just walked into it, because that's what we used to do. Yeah. You get shit faced in like the smoke pit, and then like if you're one of the ones that are up by the end of the fucking night, you just wind up sitting around quietly talking about like politics and fucking life. Like,
on that note, I'm curious, when you guys were in the military, so it sounds like there probably weren't too many, I guess, women amongst the ranks or I guess because what you're describing is such a dude hang, and there is something to, like, as much as chasing pussy is great, there is something to a fucking dude hang when there's no option for pussy, and so you're really just taking out that energy by bullshitting and getting fucking hammered late at night. But there is definitely just something magical about when you're like 3 months deep into no women around dude hang.
Yeah, dude, it was so like our other buddy, he lives with us too, and me and Typo and him. We all got out and we decided, like, I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. So we all decided that we're going to get out and go to ASU, right? And, party capital, we're going to fuck bitches, get money, and that didn't work out too well because we just go out to bars and we're like, all right, we're going to get some women tonight. Like, we got this fucking bachelor pad. Nobody else is at our bachelor pad. It's just us. It's a nice little 3-bedroom house. Like, let's fucking go. And then we'd go out and halfway through the night we'd get drunk, and it would just be, every time we started out, like first 10-15 minutes, maybe an hour, we'd be like, all right, let's try to get some girls. And then right after that hour mark, it's like, yo, I can't stand any of the people around me. You guys want to go outside and talk and get drunk? And then we just get plastered, talk shit to all the girls that were trying to hit on us because we were 3 Marine vets that just got out of the military at ASU. So they're like, oh, these guys are hot, blah, 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 blah. Or these guys are at least in decent shape and don't talk like little incel bitches or beta-ass males in ASU. So then they're like, oh, these guys are kind of cool. And we're like, why are you fucking here? Can't you see dudes are talking to each other? Like, we got politics and shit talking about. Like, come on, man, get the fuck out of here.
I'm trying to convince my friend why lizards run our fucking lives right now.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, there's nothing better than not getting laid by telling hot women, hey, we're trying to have a fucking dude hang right here. Do you mind?
That's my brand.
What the fuck you ruining our shit for? Yeah. All right. So I remember a couple years ago, I don't remember her name, but there was this female comic, and she said, I think she had done a tour in Iraq, and she said it wasn't like she had gone to the military because she kind of believed in it. And within a couple weeks of being there, she was just like, this is bullshit. I don't remember the specifics, but were there any, like, I guess things that you witnessed, like, that you were just like, oh, well, were you guys, like, any of you guys in Iraq and Afghanistan? I know you said you were in Japan. Oh, but you were in Iraq. So was there anything that you saw firsthand where you were just like, this is immoral, we shouldn't be doing this? Or I don't know, what would you say your experience was on the ground?
My first big, like, kind of slap to the face, like reality slap to the face was we took one casualty, like one KIA, one guy that got killed in our entire deployment, got shot in the head. And so we had a memorial service for him back on Camp Leatherneck. And our fucking battalion commander, our lieutenant colonel, forgot his fucking name halfway through the speech. Like, he came up to talking about him and fucking, like, he did that thing where he has his note cards and he's talking. And then he got to right where that he's about to try to say the dude's name, pauses, looks down at his cards for a second, looks back up, and then says the guy's name. And I swear to God, you could just feel, like, the fucking blood pressure rise, like, all, like, 400 fucking dudes. Dude, that rough. It was like one of those, it was like the biggest moment where it was like, these motherfuckers really don't give a shit if we live or fucking die. Like, they straight don't fucking care.
Yeah, you're pawns. Yeah. You're fucking pawns.
My big one, yeah. The big one was, oh, sorry.
No, go for it, man.
My big one was towards the end of my Marine Corps career, I was actually planning on re-enlisting. And I was re-enlisting to go on a deployment. And actually, I wasn't even going to re-enlist. I was going to extend, but they wouldn't let me extend. So I was honestly thinking about re-enlisting and to go on this deployment to Iraq. And, halfway through, I was like, man, I really don't trust this command. Like, they're kind of shady. They're kind of sketchy. Like, I don't know if I want to go to Iraq with these guys because I don't fucking trust the people that are higher than me. So then I was like, I decided to deny the orders. I was like, I'm not re-enlisting. I'm not going. Like, fuck it. I'm just going to get out, go to ASU. And like our command was super pissed. I was a sergeant at the time. And I was the only one that was running the communications shop that we had. So like all of our radios, our secret gear, crypto and shit like that, I was running all of that. And I decided I wasn't, and like literally one of my junior Marines, the only junior Marine, he was one of the newest, and he had a wife with a kid on the way, and they sent him instead of sending any of the other guys that were like chomping at the bit. And he was retarded and sucked at his job, and they decided to send him instead of sending the more qualified, better equipped, and well-prepared Marines that could have gone, that actually wanted to. And they did it just to like say, fuck you for not going. And I was like, damn, well, I'm glad I didn't fucking go. Fuck you guys. But I felt really bad for that dude. Thankfully, it all came out all right. Like, he came back and he was fine. He didn't take any fucking like indirect fire, or he didn't get any fucking scratches or anything like that. But fuck, man, you just took this dude away from his wife and soon-to-be kid for 6 months for no goddamn reason other than you're a piece of shit leadership.
Yeah, I mean, and that it's like just not. It's high stakes. You're playing with people's lives. Now, all right. My next question I have for you guys. I always like this line. It's a Marine line. Of failure to prepare is preparing to fail. I always kind of I heard that. I don't know where I heard it, but it kind of just stuck with me, and I found that to be motivating. Are there any like things that you feel like you were taught in the military that have stuck with you that you're like, that was inspiring, or like that was really like that insight to my life was really helpful, or an experience that you had where you're like, man, that really changed me for the better? Like, were there any kind of I guess going through boot camp or being with the like, was there anything that you would say, hey, that was a really insightful piece of knowledge that the military gave me and I'm happy I got from that?
One thing for me was kind of like a phrase that I still use a lot. Actually, it's no plan survives first contact with the enemy.
Right.
So it kind of means like,
you gotta
no
improvise.
matter how hard you plan, no matter how hard you try to prepare yourself, no matter how hard you try to set things to go in motion the way you want them, once it comes into contact with an opposing force, it's kind of like water around a fucking rock. It can get diverted, it can get fucked up, there'll be things you didn't expect, things that you didn't prepare for, and you just need to be ready to be able to handle that.
Yeah, one of my big ones was it's easy to be great at what you love. It takes a real man to be great at what you hate. And it was by a guy that actually was in Fallujah, and he was just like a motor teeth mechanic, and he actually ended up going in and was like part of like the really big push into Fallujah. And that just fucking stuck with me, man, because he's like, I joined because I wanted free college after the Marine Corps. And, you know, that's kind of why he joined. He was like, I'm from a shitty family. I knew I wasn't going to go to college. I was smart enough to, but I didn't have the money for it, and I wasn't going to go into debt like that. So I fucking joined the military. And he said it in the context of like, you know, going out and killing people. He was like, I fucking hate that. But I'm good at it. And he stayed in, but I kind of take that, like, that's how I took it in the Marine Corps. And then I kind of took it differently towards the end, where it was more so like, you know, sometimes you got to go against the grain, or it's like, you know, you can be great at like just getting by and like doing those things and not questioning it, but getting all that hate and like doing the stuff that it's making your life shitty because you're doing it, but you know it's right. Like, being good at those things is way more important in my head.
How many people would you say are in the military? Before it sounded like a typo. Did you have something you wanted to add to that before I move on?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, honestly, like, the biggest thing I think I've learned when I was in the military was like, well, I mean, put it in a phrase, it's expect the worst and hope for the best. That's something I always said, like, going through the military. And man, there's some shitty times you go through in the military, and like, it's hard to find, like, look for that silver lining. So if you're just expecting the worst thing possible to happen, so when that doesn't happen, you're like, well, at least that didn't happen.
Yeah,
that's
man,
like honestly,
I say that every time I eat cheese. Now, how many people would you say you interacted with in the military that were there because they were poor and this was just their best option for getting out of, you know, being raised poor, or trying to get to, like, is that a massive, like, is that a large percentage of who ends up in the Army?
That's the entire thing.
That's the demographic that the Marine Corps is.
It's poor people.
Unless you're an officer. Like, basically all the enlisted were kids from shitty backgrounds that were either poor or beat as children or sexually abused for some goddamn reason. And those are the people that grow up and go into the Marine Corps because you're a little fucking insane. You don't have all the screws there in your head. So you decide to go because you're like, well, it's the hardest one. It can't be that hard. And then you get there and you're like, well, boot camp's not that hard, but the rest of this is just fucking bullshit.
Dude, we used to make fun of people if their parents were still together.
Yeah.
Like if you were in a fucking unit and we found out your mom and dad were like married and they were actually together, like this fucking homo over here.
Typo, we give him shit all the time because his parents are still together.
Soft.
And it's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I'm sorry, I have a normal fucking family, you degenerates.
But
So
it's just true. Like one of the guys I deployed with too, his family was like these fucking super Italian fucking Catholics from Chicago, and they were still together even though they hated each other too. And fucking, we used to make fun of him for it all the time. I was like, I didn't meet my dad till I was 13, you fucking pussy.
Now, on that note of saying that there's a lot of people who are abused, do you find that they have like a really dark, evil kind of, where like when the violence kind of gets started, there's like a comfort to them of that, or I'm just kind of making something up?
Well, no, I feel like there's a few people that are like that. They're just fucking psychos. I mean,
yeah.
But you honestly, like, you're with these guys all the time, so you know the fucking psychos. You know what I mean? Like you're with these guys day in, day out for months on end. So you kind of know the psychos, and there's those guys that, they get off to shit like that. But the rest of them, it's just a lot of the guys where I was saying like you got beat as a child or whatever. They were, they're just the ones that are like, they're used to getting shit on, and they're like, well, I can take this. So it's just because you're used to it. So it's like, this is no different than anything else I've lived through.
Right.
So
I've been
really
abused my whole life. So fuck you, you fucking Marines. You think I can't get through your bullshit? My dad used to beat me. You're nothing, fucking drill sergeant. I'll take it in the ass right now. You don't think I can handle it? Let's do it, Sarge.
We actually have a phrase called the Great Weenie because the Marine Corps just fucks you the entire time you're in it.
Yeah.
You know what I heard? I read this in a New York Times Magazine article. This was the most crazy thing I ever read about. I don't think it was the Marines, but it was some sort of a special forces, and I think they trained in France. And the story was that they were trying to basically weed Muslims out of this elite unit because they were afraid that, I guess, the Muslims wouldn't be loyal to like the American army. And so they were particularly abusive towards the Muslims just to try and get them. They couldn't they couldn't kick them out. So they were trying to be extra harsh on them so that they would quit out. And the article claimed that they had like an industrial sized dryer that they would like put all the laundry in. And they actually put like a dude in the industrial like sized dryer to fucking tumble around in the heat.
That's just fucking boot camp in the Marine Corps, man.
No, are you for real? Like that, like shit, like that rough would kind of. I wasn't there. You tell me.
When I was in the Marine Corps, there was I don't know, it was a couple years after I was already in, but there was a drill instructor that did that. One of the recruits died. He put him in the dryer and he died.
Yeah.
So, does that guy get fired, promoted? What happens after that?
But he should be fucked.
He probably got promoted at first, and then like Moms of America comes in, and they're like, "You can't kill our kids," and everybody else is like, "Fuck off, kill your kids whenever you want." And they're like, push another recruit down or some shit.
I would be like, well, ma'am, he was wet, and I was just trying to help him out. I figured instead of having him take off his clothes, maybe I could just put him in the dryer, and how was I supposed to know that he would die sooner than his clothes would get dry? I can't know these things. What am I, some sort of dryer scientist?
My drill instructor, fucking like 4 weeks into boot camp, we had a kid that stood like right across from me on the other line. And we were both like right out in front of the drill instructor's house. And this fucking, he was a pussy. So like, essentially, the way to really get out of boot camp is to say that you're going to kill yourself. That's pretty much it. Either that or try to run away. They might just catch you and then put you right back in boot camp because we've seen that happen too. But so this kid said, "I'm going to kill myself." And the drill instructor was like, "All right, yeah, how are you going to fucking do that?" And he's like, "I'll choke myself." And he was like, "How? With what?" And he's like, my belt, like our fucking like rigger's belt. And he was like, "All right, go ahead." And the fucking kid was like, "Sir," and he's like, "Fucking do it." So the kid's fucking rigger's belt, tied it around his neck, and just kind of like tried to pull it up. And like I'm right in front of this, and the drill instructor looks at us, and he's like, hey, you see this guy's trying to harm his life, right? And we're like, he's like, no bullshit. He's harming himself. And we're like, yes, sir. He's like, good. And he drop kicked the motherfucker in the chest.
Oh,
and, like,
no way.
And then like grabbed the belt and then threw it and looked back at us because we're like right fucking there. And he was like, you saw me save his life, right? We're like, yes, sir. And he's like, all right, cool. And they fucking kicked him out.
That is fucking brutal. I mean, I almost respect that drill sergeant. He's like, wow, that's pretty intense.
That's the thing, man. You start like, dude, we talk about it all the time. Boot camp is the funniest place you're not allowed to laugh. Dude,
it's just because it's so funny that the way they'll yell at people and like.
And the things that they make you do, like they make you do the stupidest. They made it. He said this one guy's name was like Quaker or something like that, and the drill instructor was like, "What's your name?" And he's like, "This recruit's name is Quaker," and he was like, "Well, it looks like quack to me. You're gonna quack every time you talk to me." The dude had to literally quack at him. And he was just like, you're sitting there and you're like, what do you fucking do with this? Like, what do you want me to do here? Like, I want to laugh, but you laugh, you go get fucked up for, an hour or so, like doing, we called it so intensive training. And you're just like getting fucked up because you laughed at this dude running around the barracks going quack, 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 quack for fucking 30 minutes. And you're like, what do you expect, bro? You're making this 18-year-old kid fucking quack. Like, I don't know.
We used to pick up mattresses and just run around with them and shit. And like, fucking like, so our drill instructors had one where it was crush the house. So then we'd have to take all our fucking like bunk beds and we'd all fucking push them and like tip them over in the middle of the room, make this giant pile of like all of our bunks and coffin lockers
for no reason.
As we're getting yelled at. And then he'd say, fix the house, and then count us down and try to see how fast we can put it all back together again.
Just like stupid shit.
Like, I mean, at the time, you're like, this fucking sucks. You look back on it, you just like remember, like, it's just funny. Like, if you were not getting fucked up, you were watching it, you'd laugh.
Right.
It's pretty funny.
So I was listening to your podcast on the Afghanistan Papers, and I got to be honest, for a person, I follow the news mostly because I'm doing part of the problem, and if I fall behind, I just look like an asshole. So basically, I probably spend at least an hour a day just trying to read all the I just try and stay current on the weekends. I read a little more. I've fallen behind on the libertarian literature because I'm a little bit more just trying to follow current events. But like, I would say average day I read about for an hour to just read through all the news sources I can. Sometimes I'm doing 2 hours, but like I keep pretty current. And I got to be honest, I totally overlooked the Afghanistan Papers. I think I saw a headline, and I think the reason why I overlooked it was because at the same time, I think they also put out a torture report about all the torturing stuff that was going on in Gitmo with the CIA, which, by the way, they did a really great movie about that, which is on Amazon. But for whatever reason, I'm just telling you, maybe it was a week I drank more than I usually do. I really did not follow the Afghan. Like I didn't even really. I don't even really remember seeing the headlines on this. I don't know how I missed it. Maybe it was underreported but like I was listening to I was like, shit. And then I kind of went today and kind of redid my homework. But it basically, to give the summary, it is a tell-all that really early on in the Afghanistan war, they realized that it was unwinnable. There was no reason to be there. Even the higher-ups kind of saw the bigger picture that Osama bin Laden was just trying to get us to wait resources. And it's like an entire document that's just a tell-all of like, we're lying to the American people. We're cherry-picking statistics. We're trying to get support for the war. And then also they actually did have the cost that it was a multi-trillion-dollar war. I don't think this was in the papers, but at like civilian deaths, I think are at like 325,000, but that doesn't even include, those are like direct deaths. Those aren't like deaths from like starvation or other causes that were indirect, which is, I mean, if you look at just the numbers of they killed, 2,000 civilians on 9/11, and then we killed 325 and we pretend like we're morally superior. But you guys did a full episode on it, which kind of tuned me in. So, educate us a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing I took from that was the Rumsfeld documents. Like, he literally showed his ass the entire time in those things. Like, he has reports in 2004. He's sending out memos. Like, I don't understand who the who the enemy is in Afghanistan. Or there was another one where he was like, I don't know who the enemy is in Iraq. But at the same time, you see him on TV like during those same moments, like around the same dates. And he's like, we need to be there. The terrorists are killing our people, blah, 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 blah.
We're making progress.
Yeah. And consistently throughout the entire, like, because those documents range from like, I think it was like the earliest I saw was 2002. And I think the latest I saw was like 2012, 2011, something around there. And I mean, there's like 600 documents on that thing. So I haven't gone through like all of it. I probably haven't even gone through a quarter of it. But like just at the same time, they're all consistently and constantly saying, we're making progress in Iraq, or we're making progress in Afghanistan. And it was like, you guys literally like all these, and then you're doing these interviews at the same time with this special investigation general that is asking them what's going on. And they're just saying, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing at all. We don't even know why we're doing it. And it just fucking killed me reading like some of the shit that I did.
It's amazing that from there, I mean, okay, I'm a libertarian and I've read enough to kind of see the patterns and go, hey, government's not doing us any favors. They're trying to sell us on the fact that they're helping us out, and they're just salespeople. They're trying to, they just want resources and power. That's it. But when this kind of thing comes out, it's shocking that, firstly, the news doesn't this isn't the primary thing that they cover. And then they continue to pretend like when, they make these claims of the intelligence community for safety, it's like, no, they blatantly lied to us, and we should be having a serious conversation about restructuring government, because look at the toll of this war, and it is blatant, like, evidence here that we were lied to. What are we doing to prevent this moving forward? And like the fact that is not the national conversation after this came out is it's not just appalling. It just kind of shows like what's the chance of like what needs to come out for people to kind of open up their eyes, or for the media to actually like, how does something this blatantly obvious just kind of get brushed away? It's insanity.
Absolutely, man. It's one. I think it just leads right into what's going on with Iran right now. I honestly, because it's the same things. Like we're repeating the same steps over and over again. I mean, we've been in Iran, or we've been in and around Iran and we've definitely been in Iraq since like 1953. Like we've been doing all these things for so long, and it's just repetitive steps. And we're acting like it doesn't change. And that's the definition of insanity, expecting a different outcome by doing the same process over and over again.
Do you guys, do you know how the Afghanistan Papers leaked? I didn't quite catch that story of what happened.
There was a government agency that was collecting information on the failures in Iraq and Afghanistan. So they conducted series of what they said at the time, really confidential interviews, basically telling these military commanders to be like really frank and to like really say like what the issues were and like why we weren't. And then it also collected all those memos and shit. That's why they're getting memos like, we don't know who we're fighting. All this money that we're sending to fucking Afghanistan straight into fucking Taliban, thing in nature. So basically the whole premise of it was so that they don't do the same thing again.
Yeah, but how it got leaked was a Washington Post reporter. I don't remember his name at the top of my head, but he caught a memo or something like that, one of Rumsfeld memos. And that's how he found out about it. And then they did a whole bunch of FOIA requests to try to get them. And they, like the Washington Post, I guess, has been like in 3 different lawsuits trying to get this information. And they've won 3 of them. And I think there's a 4th one that's going on currently. And they just decided this reporter decided to release it. He was like, fuck it. But the thing is, like, all right, so the Washington Post did, and what they did is amazing, and it's extensive. And they released a 17-minute video, like explaining, like giving a general description of it. But honestly, I haven't seen, like, I subscribe to them now just so I could get the Afghanistan Papers anytime I want to. But I haven't seen anything on their top news stories or anything since they dropped it. Like, it's been swept under the rug so badly, even by the people that released it.
So let's go with just the cliff notes of the most flagrant things that I guess you guys came across, and I'll recap some of the ones we mentioned. First one is Donald Rumsfeld behind closed doors going, hey, I don't know what the hell we're doing here, while also at the same time being on the news selling the war. And then also money basically going directly to the country. And I think some of it, like you were describing, it went to the Taliban. Others was paid basically to warlords so that they wouldn't side with the Taliban. What else can you guys highlight, from us from the report? Because you've read more of it than I have.
I mean, the biggest thing that hit me was, especially getting into conversations with a lot of the other libertarian veterans that have started coming out in the last year or so. And a lot of these guys were in Iraq in fucking like 07, 08, and know a lot of guys in 03 and 04. And we talk about like kind of the shit we did. And the whole time that they're stores talking about how they don't know who the enemy is, they don't really have a real fucking mission. On our side in the military, they're still pushing us on fucking combat patrols. And we used to do them in Iraq. I think they used to call them presence patrols. For us, they call them disruption missions. And literally, it's what I tell people I did in Afghanistan. It's like they would just throw us out into an area and you walk around and he shoots at you. That's an enemy. That's what you do. There's no, it's just literally our shit was like, oh, we haven't had guys here in like 5 years, so we're just going to land. And then like they'll latch on to any kind of bit of intelligence that may or may not point to anything. Like I talked about it before on the show and earlier episodes, but my very first combat mission, fucking, they like talked it up like we're about to go raid like a bunch of like drugs and weapons, and what they picked up on their fucking like satellite imagery and their like drone intel had turned out to actually just be shit pits. So we fucking moved
literally
into this
pits
town.
Of shit. Did you guys like parachute and land in them? Because that's fucking gross.
No. I was a part of the helicopter, the helicopter like raid force. So we landed by CH-53s, and then we had a couple truck platoons that fucking came up to like provide. It's called outer cordon. So they're like 5 miles out and like a kind of a perimeter securing the area. And then we pushed patrols through the village, made everybody come out. Did like all these fucking data collection on everybody, get their fingerprints, retinas, everything like that.
God, hilarious.
Monitoring their nets. Like we did, the best part is we were supposed to get a resupply of water by like noon, and the motherfuckers didn't show up till about like 6 at night, and we ran out of water at around like 1. So we had like 3-4 guys that started fucking like heat stroking out and shit. Our lieutenant was still trying to push security patrols as dudes were just like fucking dropping for shit, because it's like the middle of fucking summer in Helmand province. So it's like 125 fucking degrees outside, and we're fucking 90 pounds of shit.
I mean,
but there's a mission and we're making progress.
Yeah, that's really the biggest takeaway, is it just kind of finally connected all these dots where it's just like, you motherfuckers just threw us out there fucking with you had no mission. You have no end game. Doing it to do it. You're doing it so you can take some fucking pictures, put it on a fucking magazine somewhere, and tell everybody that we're making progress.
Yeah. There's nothing funnier.
The other one that I saw.
I was just going to say, there's nothing funnier to me than the thought of like Marines storming a castle thinking like they're busting a terrorist, and there's literally shit pits.
I the castle too. It was really fun. It was the town.
There's fucking dragons, bro. There's fucking dragons.
Yeah, dude, it was the town. Yeah, it was Shapushta, Afghanistan, Helmand province. We had a big fucking like old asshole. We got to raid it. It was fun.
Was there shit pits in it?
Yeah.
Luke, I cut you off, Luke. You said you had a good tale for us.
The other part of the Afghan papers that really struck me was I think it was the War Czar. I can't fucking remember his name, but his title was the War Czar, and I don't know. That's not like the perfect or the actual title, but that's kind of what they.
He was in charge. Yeah,
he was in charge of major shit. But he was talking about how he was like, there's literally an interview of him saying, and I think there's audio for that one, where he's like, we can throw just tons of money at this, but what's really the point? Like, we don't even know what we're doing here. But the United States, we can do it. We can throw money in a hole and burn it. But why are we? And then that was his quote. That was like one of his big quotes. And it was just insane to me. And then the other one that was big to me was I remember before I joined, like 2000, probably like 2009, 2010, because I joined in 2012, but they were talking about how there's like a whole bunch of refugees moving in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan, and how we couldn't tell if they were terrorists or this, that, or the other. And then you go into the reports, and there's I think you can, like in the filter search, you can find it, but there's like whole reports about how they actually have like zero numbers on the amount of people that are moving. Because how can you, there's not like a fence around their border. There's not like a giant security team around these countries' borders. They're not like the United States or Canada or anything else like that, you know? So they have no idea what the numbers are. But I remember it getting pushed very heavily that we have, you know, these militia groups that are moving in and out and coming this way and that way. And they actually had no numbers, and they were making it seem like it was this giant problem when actually they don't even know if it was a problem or if it wasn't a problem.
I mean, we used to make the joke all the time that fucking we were shooting at Pakistani college kids because we knew there was Pakistanis and shit and militias they just move across the border in Afghanistan and Pakistan like seamlessly, just back and forth. And so it's kind of something we did when we were like pissed drunk at like 2:30 in the morning, and like somebody was like, "So did you like shoot at anybody overseas?" And me and my old roommate be like, "Yeah, you know, a couple Pakistani college kids, nothing important," and just like put it in that fucking framework. They're like, terrorists? Yeah, college kids.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, they were brown. They were from another country. They were studying information. Yeah. I mean, anyone in college out in Pakistan, they're clearly going to use that information against us. All right. So before I let you guys go, I know you're Marines. You got expertise. You like broing out. And the biggest news story of today was about Megxit and how Meghan Markle has pulled Prince I don't even know which prince he is, away from the royal family, and that they're leaving. They're going to be financially solvent. Of course, the gay one of your group knows what I'm talking about. I'm kidding, typo. So what's your opinion about what is
you know, you already picked it up, dude. You picked up on that quick.
Dude, he's like the fucking brunt of everybody's joke constantly. So you just like made fun of him and was like, oh, he knows. He gets us.
Thank you. You're a mom. You're it.
I got you, buddy. So what do you guys think about this tragedy that, you know, after all these years in the royal family, this American lady just joins and convinces him to leave?
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I saw that on Twitter, and my first thought was like, I don't give a shit.
I think I think that's just pussy at its best at every level. You can fall in love with some chick. You could have been with anybody, and for some reason they need all of your attention, that they're going to blow up your whole spot, and then she's probably going to end up breaking up with him anyways for being a bitch and leaving. Like, there's some, not that every lady's like this, but some that's their thrill, is kind of, does this guy love me enough that I can ruin his life? Like, does he love me that? You know what I mean? It's not like just being married. Like, they gotta push it to the extreme. Like, does he really love me? Like, let's see what he'll sacrifice. And then when he does sacrifice all that, they go, oh, you're a fucking bitch. I gotta go find myself a real man, you know? And that's when
they give up the butt. They turn you into an alcoholic. And then they leave you. That's how it works.
Okay. Before we call an episode, I kind of boxed Harrington out. You know, I didn't let him defend himself at all in my accusations about his lack of survival skills. And I feel like he might have had, you know, some comments along the way. You had your back to me. So I really boxed you out. So before I let the glorious Marines leave us, I want to give you the floor here for a sec.
I just want to point out that I survived the weekend.
That is true.
There you go.
And you enjoyed the DMT.
Dude,
that is a challenge.
Also, are you gonna be giving us the audio to put at the end of an episode at some point, or it's not coherent?
I mean, I'll let you listen to it after this.
No, it's up to you. If you want to throw it out there, we can post roll it kind of at the end and go, here's Harrington's magical journeys. But if it's incoherent gibberish, then you know we don't.
Like, as a very it feels very masturbatory because it is a lot of silly rambling by me, and like a lot of other people in the room. Like, it's the front part is me explaining it like a coherent human being who knows what he's doing, and the back half is like, I left this plane of existence.
All right, maybe we could throw it out there. All right, before I let you guys leave, firstly, thank you so much for coming on. This was an absolute blast. The podcast is called Biting the Bullet Podcast. You just recently I saw you had the Fadcast guys on. I like those dudes. Actually, you just had one of them on. You had your prep for the Boogaloo. You guys went through the Afghan papers. You also did a really fun breakdown with the bullshit from war movies, canteens. They get fucking rotten in there. You did it on Saving Private Ryan, but go ahead. You tell us. What do you guys want to plug?
Yeah, you can find our Instagram at Biting the Bullet Pod on Instagram, and you can find our Twitter at Biting the Bullet Podcast, and that's where we're pretty active on. You can find our podcast on any major podcatcher, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Anchor, all those platforms. We also just opened up our Patreon, which gets you into our Discord because we do live shows now. You'll hear a lot more of those movie reviews and stuff like that. Jared runs our Discord. Typo runs our Facebook page, which is also Biting the Bullet Podcast. And you can find me at Keep It Real Luke on Twitter. I post some dope shit on there. It's and I was like very much I do a lot of the live updates, like when Iran was bombing and all that stuff. I was fucking right on there, thanks to antiwar.com and Scott Horton. Like, they're fucking awesome over there. But that's me, Jared.
Yeah. I run the Discord. And then you can find me on Twitter as well. My personal account is at the Mongoose 0861. I argue with fucking no profile picture avatars with less than 30 followers about capitalism versus socialism, and I do it the best. So
it's good use.
And you can find me at the Real Typo on Twitter, and I post stuff sometimes too.
Sometimes our podcast page actually has more followers than Typo, so we need to show Typo some love. But somebody needs to.
All right. Guys, seriously, this was a ton of fun. I appreciate all the insights, and keep in touch. We'll do it again.
Yeah, definitely, man. Thanks for having us on.
All right. Later, dudes. Seriously, this was fun. Thanks, guys.
Yep, later.
Thanks for having us on.
Cheers.